Good morning, everyone. It's Melissa again, back on Friday at 9 a.m. for the Evolve Women's Networking Literary Circle. This is where we help those busy entrepreneurs get a glimpse into books that have been selected on a weekly basis so that you can know whether to download it on Audible, put it on your bookcase, or maybe you've got enough information that you don't need to do anything. So today we're talking about one of my things that I like is habits. And, for all of us, creating habits as entrepreneurs can be a struggle. We find ourselves really putting more pressure on ourselves than maybe we need to. And that's where this is a book that can really help you break it down and minimize how you're creating your habits in smaller versions than thinking about the whole big thing. So the person that wrote this is Stefan, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, guys, maybe, but he's talking about smaller habits for those bigger results. And I was very attracted to the butterfly on the cover, of course. But when we talk about habits, we're looking at those of us who are we're looking for lasting change, but we tend to find ourselves as early quitters, and perhaps we get burnout, or maybe we just not even motivated anymore. And we're not alone in this, because we all experience this, whether it's in our business, our relationships, our health, our wellness. We all have those stumbling blocks that sometimes we can't get past or see through. Does this sound familiar? These sure did for me. First, when I tried getting motivated, tried being the operative word, and sometimes it works. We can be motivated for a period of time. But how about when you tried setting that audacious big goal, but you almost always fail at them because you just get burnout, or you get frustrated or distracted? Or how about this one? I tried to make changes last, but they didn't do that. And that's what this book is really giving you an opportunity to, one, give yourself permission that you're not the problem, that this is about ways that this Stefan had actually found scientific habits and how our brain sees and uses them. And the explanation here was about motivation is not necessarily reliable. It's how you use your willpower instead. And I used to think that word was kind of like willpower, like, yeah, I'm going to will myself into doing this. I've got the power to do it. But I soon started working on, well, maybe it's about the motivation, but this book has given me new clarity around, it's really a combination of them both. But the willpower is what you're really willing to do. So the plan in this book is about the step-by-step implementation of what he calls mini habits for your life. So when you set a super easy goal to start, because chances are you'll keep going with that. And it's really, I think, for us as entrepreneurs, business owners, and women in general, because we've always been the nurturer taking care of things, we always think we've got to get everything done versus what's that small change that I can do in order to work towards my goals. So the second one is using some kind of system or tracker when you start this habit. And we all know this. There's diet programs out there that you can track what you eat or your exercise. Those Fitbits are definitely very popular. I don't know if they're as popular as they once were, but it was about getting the 10,000 steps or maybe getting a gallon of water in. So tracking it for me sometimes can be more discouraging because I beat myself up when I don't reach the goal, but I get really excited when I do reach the goal. So it's finding, again, that balance. And then he talks about when you beat your goal, don't increase the standard or you're more likely to fall off the wagon. And what he talks about there is, if you drank a half a gallon of water and that's what you intended to drink, it doesn't mean now you've got to go to a gallon. It's setting those small increments and getting it into, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. Those habits, you just do them. You don't have to measure them. You don't have to do any more than that. It's all about just getting the small step forward in what you're doing, but don't be so quick to make it a bigger goal outside of what you've already established for yourself. So then we talk about, well, what is a mini habit? And the mini habits are about, many habits are very small positive behaviors. And this is what's going to force you to not fail. It's about, if you want to start doing exercise, find that one thing that you can do. In his case, it was push-ups. He started with one push-up a day until it became a habit. And then he was able to alter that to do more. But again, it wasn't, oh, I did one, that was pretty easy, let me do 25 tomorrow. It was about, let me just incrementally put these things into place. And I relate that to food too, is, we want to eat the whole cake, but sometimes we can be satisfied with a couple of bites. And that's where I feel this book is giving you that energy, that willpower to be like, I didn't cut out everything. I just looked at it differently. I did many things to that. And then he talks about the barriers to the first step is this, the barrier to the first step is so low that even depressed or stuck people can find early success and begin to reverse their life right away. That goes back to that first small change. If it is, eliminating something, adding something, not doing it in such big amounts that you can feel good about it. So hopefully that makes sense. And I thought that was his push up a day. It seemed too small to matter, but over time he created this really good story. And that's where you can find more of that story in his book. But I just really like that, because sometimes I sit there and I think, oh, I could get on my rebounder, or I could put on an exercise tape. And when I read this, I could do one push up. I could do one push up. Now I've not done it yet, but I could. So it's just opening the mind to think about what are the little small changes that I can do. And for him, he has used this mini habit strategy to get into the best shape of his life. He reads 10x more books, and we've all talked about we need to read more. And then he also writes 4 times as many words. So he found the balance of where he can incrementally do that. It started with him doing the push-ups every day. And I thought I just copied this right out of the thing, because it was like, how ridiculous is that? And that's what we think, right? We start automatically sabotaging ourselves, thinking, well, that's not worth, celebrating, or thinking it's a big deal, when really it is. So don't think that anything is ridiculous until you consider the science behind the brain of how we form habits, and how our willpower, not just our motivation, but how they all work together. And the mini habit system works because it's how our brains are designed to change. I think of it when we were little babies trying to walk. We didn't take off running. We had to learn to catch our balance. We might've took 1 or 2 steps. Everybody was excited. And then before we knew it, we took 2 or 3 more steps. Like it's those kind of habits that we want to take back and start doing in our adult life, because we had it all figured out when we were kids, right? When we were little babies, unprogrammed, we had it all figured out. But if you revert back to some of those things, just like brushing your teeth, your parents had to tell you, brush your teeth, till it became, oh, I'm going to brush my teeth. Maybe you just did it in the morning and then you added the evening habit. Maybe you do flossing now. It's all of those things, but think about how you did that originally. Those things were just very simple to incorporate, and over time became what you did. Always talking about aim for the first step. That saying, if you shoot for the moon, you might land upon the stars. And what was funny is he says, actually, the stars are further away than the moon. So that really isn't going to happen, which I thought was good information. But when you aim for the moon, you probably won't even shoot, because the first thing is, it's too far away. I'll never reach the moon. And that's what we do. We self-sabotage ourselves with those kind of thoughts. And then what he was saying, but when you aim for that first step in front of you, this is where things start going, and eventually you would reach the moon. So this staircase, I know that is used a lot. Take that first small step, take that first step. And I think what we don't understand is, well, what is that first inspired step? What's the first action step that I need to take? Yes, I want to lose X amount of weight. Yes, I want a better relationship. Yes, I want to grow my business. But what's the first small step that I can do first to create a habit that then will build upon that habit to the next habit, and so on? Kind of like his one push up a day became a lot of push-ups, and then put him in his best health ever. So his quote here is, be the person with the embarrassing goals and impressive results, instead of one of the many people with impressive goals and embarrassing results. Yeah, I can attest to that, because it's like, I had that really big goal, but it didn't work out as planned. And then keep in mind that these mini habits, you will soon find yourself living in a life that's full of positive rituals, and which will make you a better person. And that's the habit. That's what they're all about. So whether it's meditation, reading, not picking up your cell phone first thing in the morning, getting to bed early, maybe not eating sugar or as much sugar, adding fruit, vegetables, like all those little things, give yourself a pat on the back, because it's all about you keeping these mini habits in place so that you can start finding positive ways that you're living your best life. So the breakout questions, we're going to talk about, where have you made big successes and failed? Oftentimes we try to avoid what didn't work out, and we're kind of, like he said, embarrassed about the results. So when we can actually speak it out into the universe, to the cosmic kitchen, it allows us to really understand that even though we had a big goal in mind and we failed, we learn from that. So the key thing, I think, is, if I recognize where I failed, I can adjust and adapt to a new way to where I can maybe be successful the next time. And then what can you start today as a mini habit? What's one thing that you've been thinking about that you would really like to begin to move into? And the other one is, how will you track your habits and know that you're making progress? But tracking your habits in a way that doesn't feel like you failed, right? It's about like, oh, I did it yesterday, but I didn't do it today. Doesn't mean I got to stop. Doesn't mean I'm falling off the wagon. It just means tomorrow I get to try again. And I think we forget that as well. Trying is always there and available for us instead of just throwing in the towel and saying, nope, it didn't work. I failed. So I hope that the information from this book has helped you to start thinking about your own mini habits and that you'll be able to start creating them in your life. We will now go into our breakout rooms and answer these questions.